There are many ways to perform functions in Illustrator. Today, we're going to learn about making routine tasks more efficient. Along the way, we're going to create a puzzle for our younger audiences. We'll start by going to the File menu and go to New. In the name field, let's call this Puzzle. Under the number of artboards, we're going to need 2 artboards, one for our drawing and one for the pieces for the puzzle. I'll use a letter-sized sheet of paper because that's what most of you will print this on. And we'll say, OK. Now we have 2 artboards. I'm going to start with artboard number 1 by drawing a rectangle. I'll press M for my rectangle tool, or I could get it from the toolbox. I'm going to hold down the Alt or the Option key and click on my page. This will open a box where I can determine the size of my rectangle. In this case, I would like it to be 5 inches by 5 inches so that it fits nice in the center of the page. And we'll say OK. This square has been defaulted to a white fill with a black stroke. We're going to get into that more in just a minute. But for now, I'm just going to change the fill color to blue. And I'll give the stroke a little more weight so that we can see it. I'm going to now use my Move tool to move my square until it lands in the center of the page. And you can use the Smart Guides to know if your square is in the middle. I'm going to create a special layer for this, and I'm going to call it my shape. And we'll create another layer that we're going to put on the lines, and we'll call this the solution to the puzzle. Now, on this solution layer, I'm going to grab my brush tool, and I'm just going to brush a few lines across this box, just to break it into some pieces here. And maybe one more. And there. Now we're going to use these lines to break our square into pieces. So first, I'm going to get my Move tool, my Selection tool, and I will select all the pieces, and I'm going to press Command or Control C to copy. Now I'm going to create another layer for those new pieces to land on, and we'll call that Pieces. And then we can do a Command or Control V to paste those pieces. And I'll move it over to our second artboard into the center of the page. Right about there. Okay. Now I'm going to put away my solution and my shape for just a minute. And on my Pieces layer, I can select the lines and the square, and we're going to use a new panel called the Pathfinder panel. This Pathfinder panel is used to break objects into different shapes. For this situation with lines on top of my shape, if I click on the Divide button, it will then break this shape up into these pieces. I can go to the Object menu and ungroup it so that now each of these pieces is a selectable shape. I'm going to break it apart just a little bit so that the pieces might be scattered on the page when it prints. I could rotate these by grabbing the corner of one of the shapes and just simply rotating it to make it a little more difficult. And there, our shapes are all broken up. Now maybe I want to give some color to this. So we'll start with this first shape, and I'm going to grab 2 of my favorite panels. The first one is the Appearance panel, and the second one is the Graphic Styles panel. And I'll just pull those out so that we can see them. All right. Now, this first shape, I'm going to change its color. So we'll go to the Fill, and I'm going to choose yellow. And maybe I want the stroke to be a dashed line. And I could fit it to the corners. And maybe we want to make it just a little thicker. And I could turn it to, let's say, red. And maybe I like this style for my shape. I can take that appearance up here in the top left corner where it says path, and I can drag it to my graphic styles panel. Now, if I wish to change one of the other shapes to match that same graphic style, I can just click once on the graphic style and apply it to the shape. I could do multiple shapes if I select multiples at once and simply click on the graphic style. I'm going to go back to the first shape now and change this just a little bit. Bring the stroke down to about 4 points, and I am not going to use a dashed line in this case. And I'm going to leave this stroke as red, and I'll make another graphic style. So now I have yellow shapes with a solid red stroke. Maybe I want to make some of these pieces green or blue or other colors. All I would need to do is change the fill color, and maybe I could leave the stroke or change it and make that the new appearance. And as I change the fill color and leave my stroke, I can keep dragging these appearances into my graphics style panel. Now, if I want to change the color and make it a little bit more unique, I can simply select the objects and change the color of the shape so that it matches that graphic style. And once you've got all of your shapes and pieces matched up the way that you want them to look, finish up these last two. And now we have all these colorful pieces that can go with our solution. So we'll close these panels now that we're done with them. And inside of our layers panel, I'm going to turn the other two layers on so we can see from now the pieces and we can see the solution. So we can see how those pieces might fit together. And so we might want to print those out or a number of things to let our students manipulate those. In order to do that, we need to go to the File menu and we would choose Export, because we're going to send this out from a raster, from a vector-based image into a raster image. And we'll choose a format of PNG, and if I use the artboards box right here, it will make two different PNG files. One that has the puzzle on it and one that has my shapes on it. If I wanted to not include the solution, I could go to the layers panel and just turn off the lines. So now they have the shape and the pieces that have to go inside of the shape. And remember, since we started with this same square, all these pieces are the same size and will fit in this square. Now when we go to our file, export, we choose to use the artboards, and it will make two PNG files, one for each of the two artboards, and then we can print them. Well, I've showed you a lot of things and given you some ideas. Now it's your turn to go see how you could use the appearance panel, the shapes, and make your own manipulatives.